to our beloved instructor, Dr. Glenn O. Ampolocchio. Good day to you, sir. I am Vanessa B. Salvador, a Bitoled 3C student from Southern Leyte State University main campus. In this video, I'm going to present my final term output for the subject entitled Assessment in Learning 1. In the task A, the final grades are obtained by the grade 9 students are given. Their grades are 82, 84, 82, 83, 81, 85, 80, 80, 75, 75, 87, 84, 88, 91, 92, 90, 79, 77, 80, 90, 91, 88, 86, 86, 90, 86, 85, 88, 84, 81, 81, 77, 75, 78, 75, 77, 85, 89, 90, 91, 80, 89, 85, 81, and 78. So, after looking at their grades, I'm about to answer the two questions. The first question is, using a norm referenced grading with a 7-point scale, determine the scores that would get a failing mark. What is your general comment on this? In a norm referenced grading with a 7-point scale according to the DepEd guidelines under the old normal class setting, the failing grade is below 75. As we can see on their final grades, no one got the score of below 75. Therefore, I can say that all students of grade 9 class passed if we use the norm referenced grading with a 7-point scale. The second question is, using a norm referenced grading with an 8-point grading scale, determine the scores that would get a failing mark. How is it compared to the previous grading system used? In 8-point grading scale, the failing grade is below 77. So, among the students of grade 9 class, the students who got 75 would get a failing mark. And as you look at their final grades, there are 4 students who got 75. The 7-point grading scale's final grade is lower than the 8-point grading scale. So, the students are more likely to get a passing grade when we use the 7-point grading scale. In the task 1B, I am instructed to compute the grade of a student in grade 5 English with the following row scores. His written work is 75 out of 100. His performance task is 80 out of 100. And his score in quarterly test is 65 out of 100. So stay tuned because we will compute first the grade of a grade 5 student in English subject. The first step is to get the percentage score. Let's remember the formula of percentage score, which is percentage score of a component is equal to the score divided by the highest possible score. Then the answer would be multiplied by 100. So that we will derive the right percentage score of each component. Components such as written work, performance task, and quarterly test. So let's try it out. Let's find first the percentage score in written work. Percentage score is equal to 75 over 100. So this is his row score in written work, and the 100 is total highest possible score. And then we will multiply it by 100. So now let's derive it. 75 divided by 100 is 0.75. 0.75 multiplied by 100 is 75. So 75 is the grade 5 student's percentage score in written work. Moving on to his performance task, it is percentage score is equal to 80. 80 over 100. Then we'll multiply it by 100. Now let's derive it. 80 divided by 100 is 0.8. Then divided by 100. Multiplied by 100. 0.8 times 100 is 80. So the percentage score in his performance task is 80. In terms of percentage score in quarterly test, it is percentage score is equal to 65. 65 over 100. Then 65 divided by 100 is 0.65. Times 100. 0.65 times 100 is 65. So 65 is his percentage score in quarterly test. Next is the weighted score. First is the weighted score in written work. The formula in finding the weighted score is short but complicated. Why? Because in finding the weighted score of each component, you have to use the percentage score of the component and then multiply it to the weight of the component depending on what subject are we working on. So, in our case, the subject is English, right? So, take note of that. Let's start finding the weighted score in written work. I have here the table that we can refer in weighing the components for grades 1 to 10. So let's remember that the subject is English. So English belongs to the language, and the weight of the language in written work is 30%. So we're going to convert that percent into decimal form. So let's start deriving it. Weighted score is equal to the percentage score in written work, which is 75. 75, then we will multiply it by the weight of the component, which is 30%, and we're going to convert it into 0.30 times 0.30. So 75 times 0.30 is equal to 22.5. I am sorry because due to the technical error, I didn't record the computation of weighted score in written work, performance task, quarterly test, and the initial grade, and how I could find the 84, which is the transmitted grade. So I will explain it again. I find the weighted score in written work by using the percentage score in written work here and multiplied it by 0.30, which is the 30% in weighing the components. I already converted it into decimal point. In weighted score in performance task, it is 80, that is the percentage score in performance task, times 0.50. Then the 65 times 0.20, because the quarterly assessment is weighted 20%. So the answer is 13. 65 times 0.20 is 13. Then the initial grade is equal to the sum of the weighted scores in written work, performance task, and quarterly test. So it is 22.5 plus 40 plus 13 is equal to 75.5. The transmuted grade is based on the 2019, which is the last year of old normal setting. Because in 2020 to 2021, the transmutation table is different from the old normal class setting. Now that we are done with the task 1B number 1, let us remember that the answer in the number 1 is 84. 84 is the grade of a student in grade 5 English with the following row scores. Let us remember that the answer in number 1 is 84. 84 is the grade of a student in grade 5 English. Now let's proceed to the number 2. Task 1B number 2. Grade 6 student in mathematics with the following row scores. His written work is 33 out of 50. His performance task is 40 out of 60. His score in quarterly test is 30 out of 40. Let us follow the steps in number 1 to find out the grade of a grade 6 student in mathematics. The first step is to find the percentage score in written work. To find out the percentage score in written work of a grade 6 student in mathematics, remember that the formula in finding the percentage score is percentage score of a component is equal to the total score divided by the total highest possible score. And after that, don't forget to multiply it to 100. Now let's derive it. Percentage score in written work of a grade 6 student in mathematics. His score is 33 and the total highest possible score is 50. So let's put 30 here, and under it is the 50, which is the total highest possible score. Then multiplied by 100. 30 divided by 50 is 0.7. 0.7 times 100 is 70. So, the percentage score in written work of a grade 6 student in mathematics is 70. Now let's proceed to the percentage score of his performance task. His total row score in performance task is 40. Then the total highest possible score is 60. Then let's close parenthesis it, then times 100. 40 divided by 60 is 0.66. 0.66. Then let's bring down the 100. 0.66 times 100 is 66. Then 66 is the percentage score in performance task of a grade 6 student in mathematics. The next step is to find the percentage score in quarterly test. So let's remember the formula, which is percentage score is equal to the score of a student, which is 30, divided by 40, which is the total highest possible score. Then let's multiply it to 100. Now let's derive it. 30 divided by 40 is 0.75. 0.75. Then let's bring the 100 down. So 0.75 times 100 is equal to 75. 75 is the percentage score in quarterly test of a grade 6 student in mathematics. Now that we're done solving with the percentage score in written work, which is 70, the percentage score in performance task, which is 66, and percentage score in quarterly test is 75, let's proceed in solving the weighted score in written work. Let's remember the formula, which is the weighted score of a component is equal to the percentage score multiplied by the weight of the component. So in solving the weighted score in written work, let's write here the formula. Weighted score is equal to the percentage score in written work, which is 70. Then we will multiply it to 0.40. Then 70 times 0.40 is 28. Take note that in finding the weight of the component, consider the subject, which is mathematics, and the component is written work, so that we have 40% here. And we're going to convert that percent into decimal form, which is 0.40. That's why we found 28. 28 is the weighted score in written work. Now in the weighted score in performance task, we have weighted score is equal to 66 because the percentage score in performance task is 66. Then let's multiply it to 0.40 again because the performance task weighted 40%. So let's write here the 0.40. 66 times 0.40 is equal to 26.4. So the weighted score in performance task is 26.4. After the weighted score in performance task, we have to solve also the weighted score in quarterly test. We will write here the weighted score in quarterly test. Weighted score is equal to 75 because 75 is the percentage score in quarterly test. So we will write 75 times 0.20. So 75 times 0.20 is equal to 15. So 15 is the weighted score in quarterly test. Now that we already found the weighted scores, especially in written work, performance task, and quarterly test, let's proceed in finding the initial grade. Let's recall the formula of initial grade, which is the sum of the weighted scores in written work, performance task, and quarterly test. So let's add it. Let's write 28 here plus 26.4 plus 15. So this 28, 26.4, and 15 are the weighted scores of a grade 6 student in mathematics. So 28 plus 26.4 plus 15 is equal to 69.4. Now, if you're going to transmute it using the 2019 transmutation table, it would be 80. So the transmuted grade is 80. The answer of number 2 in task 1B is 80, which is the grade of a grade 6 student in mathematics. Now let's move on to the task 2. The first instruction is determine the percentage scores, apply the percentage weights or weighted scores, and calculate her first quarter grade. So as we can observe that there are some missing parts that we're going to solve later. The first that we're going to solve is her total score in written work. Total score. Always remember that we're going to choose the row scores, not the highest possible scores. So here are the row scores here, and we're going to find the sum of it. 18 plus 10 plus 19 plus 20 plus 22 plus 25 plus 30. The sum of the total scores is 144. So let's put the 144 here. Then, to find out the percentage score, let us recall the formula, which is percentage score of a component is equal to the total score divided by the total highest possible score. And after that, don't forget to multiply the answer to 100. Now let's derive it. Finding the percentage score in written work. Substituting the formula, which is the total score 144 over the total highest possible score, which is 190. Then multiplied by 100. 144 divided by 190 is 0.7579. 0.7579. Then multiplied by 100. 0.7579 times 100 is 75.79. So 75.79 is the percentage score in written work. Let's put the 75.79 here. Now that we already found the percentage score in written work, we can now work on the weighted score. To identify the weighted score of written work, the formula to use is weighted score is equal to percentage score of a written work times the weight of the component. Let's see the table to identify the weight of the component. We must consider the subject, which is Araling Panlipunan, the grade level, and the component, which is the written work. Again, let's consider the subject, which is Araling Panlipunan. And then the component is the written work. So we have 30%, and if we convert 30% into decimal form, it would be 0.30. finding the weighted score in written work. Weighted score is equal to percentage score 75.79. Then let's multiply it by 0.30 because the Araling Panlipunan in written work is 30%. So it's 0.30. 75.79 times 0.30 is 22.737. And we're going to round it off. It will become 22.74. So 22.74 is the weighted score in written work. Let's put the weighted score here, which is 22.74. Then let's move on to the other blank. After completing the table in written work, let us also fill out the performance task. The incomplete part is the total score and the percentage score. So let's compute the total score first. In computing the total score, we must add all of the scores here. It is 16 plus 24 plus 24 plus 28. So the sum of the 16 plus 24 plus 28 is 92. Ninety-two is the total score. As you can see, we're already done computing the total score. Let's proceed to another missing part to solve, which is the percentage score. Let us recall the formula of the percentage score, which is percentage score is equal to the total row score divided by the highest possible score, then multiply the answer to 100. Let's write finding the percentage score in performance task. In performance task. Percentage score is equal to 92 over 110. Then multiply the answer to 100. The 92 is the total score and the 110 is the total highest possible score. Now let's divide the 92 divided by 110 is 0.8364. 0.8364. Then let's bring down the 100. 0.8364 times 100 is 83.64. So 83.64 is the percentage score in performance task. 83.64. Now that written work and performance task is already complete, we can now solve the missing parts in the quarterly assessment. Let's write finding the percentage score in quarterly assessment. So the percentage score in quarterly assessment is 60. Remember that this 30 is from the score in quarterly assessment, and the 50 is the total highest possible score in quarterly assessment. Then 30 divided by 50 times 100 is equal to 60. So the percentage score in quarterly assessment is 60. Now let's proceed to the weighted score in quarterly assessment. So in substituting the formula, which is percentage score times weight of the component, the percentage score is 60, and this 0.20 is derived from the weight of component table. As you can see that the Araling Panlipunan weights 20% in quarterly assessment. So we convert it into decimal form, and it is 0.20. So 60 times 0.20 is 12. Therefore, 12 is the weighted score in quarterly assessment. As we look at the table, it's clear that it's already filled out. So let's now answer the question. The question is, suppose Ellen's grade in the same subject for the second, third, and fourth quarter are 87, 88, and 90 respectively. Compute her final rating and give its descriptive equivalent. So, to find out the final rating of Ellen, let us find the first quarter grade of Ellen by achieving the proper steps, and finding the weighted score would be the first. In finding the weighted score in written work, referring to the table, the subject is Araling Panlipunan, and that would be 30%. So let's find the weighted score in written work. Written work is equal to 75.79 times 0. This 75.79 is from the percentage score of Ellen's written work in the first quarter grade. So let's multiply it by 0.30, which is the weight of the component. 75.79 times 30 is 22.74. So 22.74 is the weighted score in written work. Then the performance task would be followed, finding the weighted score in performance task. Finding the weighted score in performance task. So weighted score is equal to, what is the percentage score of her performance task? It is 83.64. 83.64. Then let's multiply it to the weight of the component, which is 0.50. 0.50. 83.64 times 0.50 is 41.82. So 41.82 is the weighted score in performance task. Now let's find the weighted score in quarterly assessment. So weighted score is equal to 60, because 60 is the percentage score in quarterly assessment. Then let's multiply it to 0.20. 60 times 0.20 is 12. So 22.74, 41.82, and 12 are the weighted scores. Now that we already found the weighted scores in written work, performance task, and quarterly assessment, we're now ready to find the initial grade. The formula in finding the initial grade is equal to the sum of the weighted scores of written work, weighted score of performance task, and weighted score of quarterly test. So it's going to be like this. Initial grade is the sum of the weighted scores, which is 22.74 plus 41.82 plus 12. So the answer would be 76.56. So the initial grade is 76.56. Now that we find out the initial grade, it is now ready to be transmuted. Let's look at the transmutation table. The 76.56 initial grade is equivalent to 85. This transmutation table is the 2019 DepEd transmutation table. We can't use the updated one since the grading system was highly affected due to the pandemic. Now that we already attained the first quarter grade of LN in Paraling Panlipunan, we are now ready to compute the final rating because the second, third, and fourth quarter grade were given. So to find the final rating, we will use the formula, which is final rating is equal to the sum of the first, second, third, and fourth quarter grade divided by 4. So let's derive it. The first quarter grade is 85 plus the second quarter, which is 87, third quarter 88, and the fourth quarter, which is 90. Then divided by 4. So the sum of the 85, 87, 88, and 90 is 350. 350 over 4. 350 divided by 4 is 87.5. Let's run the 87.5 into 88. So it is rounded of 288. So the answer is Ellen's final rating is 88% and its descriptive rating is pass. At this juncture, let's proceed to the task 2B. The final numerical and descriptive ratings of Ellen in other learning areas or subjects are given below. Using the results you have obtained above, determine her final average. So the missing parts in this table is the final grade of Araling Panlipunan and its remarks, and also the general average and its remarks. So using the results we have obtained above, the final rating of Ellen in Araling Panlipunan is 88. And it is passed. To find the general average, the formula to use is general average is equal to the sum of final grades of all learning areas divided by the total number of all learning areas in a grade level. Let's put the final grades of Ellen here. The Filipino is 89. Then the English is 89. The mathematics is 82. The science is 87. The Araling Panlipunan is 88. The MAPE is 91. The Edukasyon sa Pagpakatao is 85. And lastly is the Edukasyong Pantahanan at Pangkabuhayan, which is 74. Then, over the total number of all learning areas, which is 8. There are 8 subjects, so we will put 8 here. Now the question is, what is the sum of 89 plus 89 plus 82 plus 87 plus 88 plus 91 plus 85 plus 74? It is 685. 685 over 8 because there are 8 learning areas. So 685 divided by 8 is 85.63. And we're going to round it off into 86%. There is no need to transmute it because all of the final grades are already transmuted. So let's put the 86% here. And it is obviously passed. Welcome to the task 3. In this task, the instruction is you are provided a table showing a sample card of a grade 6 student named Paulo for the first quarter of the school year 2020 to 2021. Using the discussions of Lesson 8 as your guide, fill up the empty spaces to get the needed data until you will be able to compute for his quarterly grade at the last column. The way of my computation here is to set aside the MAPE subject, because it's a different process. Then, I will feel the weight of written works in Filipino, English, Mathematics, Science, Araling Panlipunan, Edukasyon sa Pagpakatao, and Edukasyong Pangtahanan at Pangkabuhayan. Next to solve are the weights of the performance tasks and quarterly assessment. Then, we will go to the initial grade and quarterly grade. Then the last subject to be solved is the mapping. We're going to fill the blanks that belong to this subject. So now let's start. In finding the weighted score in written work for Filipino, recall the formula of weighted score, which is weighted score is equal to the product of the percentage score of the component and the weight of the component. So let's use the table in weighing the component. Let's write finding the weighted score in written work for Filipino. Finding the weighted score in written work for Filipino. Weighted score is equal to, what is the percentage score in written work for Filipino? It is 85. So let's put 85 times the weight of the component. Filipino is considered a language, so the written work in language is 30%. So it's going to be 0.30. 85 times 0.30 is 25.5. So 25.5 is the weighted score in written work for Filipino. Now let's proceed to the weighted score in written work for English. Finding the weighted score in written work for English. Now we're going to find again the percentage score in a subject English. It is 82. 82 times the weight of the component. English is considered also a language, so it is 30%. .30. 82 times 0.30, it is 24.6. The next subject is mathematics. Let's find the weighted score in written work for mathematics. What is the percentage score of mathematics in written work? It is 71. So let's put 71 times the weight of the component. The subject is math. The component is written work, so it's 40%. 0.40. 71 times 0.40, it is 28.4. So 28.4 is the weighted score in written work in mathematics. So next subject is science. Let's find the weighted score in written work for science. The percentage score in written work for science is 76. Then let's multiply it to its weight of component, which is 40%. 76 times 0.40, it is 30.4. Now let's proceed in finding the weighted score in written work for Araling Panlipunan. Finding the weighted score in written work for Araling Panlipunan. So, weighted score is equal to the percentage score in written work for Araling Panlipunan, which is 83. Then 83 would be multiplied to its weight of component. So AP in written work is weighted 30%. So let's put 0.30. 83 times 0.30 is 24.9. So 24.9 is the weight score in written work for Araling Panlipunan. Next subject is edukasyon sa pagpakatao. Let's find the weighted score in written work for edukasyon sa pagpakatao or ESP. So weighted score is equal to the percentage score in written work for ESP. It is 84. 84 times the weight of the component, which is 30% or 0.30. 84 times 0.30 is 25.2. Now, let's proceed in finding the weighted score in written work for EPP or Edukasyong Pangtahanan at Pangkabuhayan. Finding the weighted score in written work for Edukasyong Pangtahanan at Pangkabuhayan. That is weighted score is equal to 80 because 80 is the percentage score in written work. So let's put 80 times the weight of the component. The weight of written work in EPP subject is only 20%. So let's put 0.20 here. 80 times 0.20 is equal to 16. So 16 is the weighted score in written work for EPP. Now let's fill up the table using the results of our computation. The weighted score in written work for Filipino is 25.5. 25.5. Then in English is 24.6. 24.6. In mathematics, it is 28.4. 28.4. In science, it is 30.4. 30.4. In Araling Panlipunan, it is 24.9. 24.9. In ASP is 25.2. 25.2. In Edukasyon, Pantahanan at Pangkabuhayan is 16. Next to solve is the weighted score in performance task. Finding the weighted score in performance task for Filipino. So weighted score is equal to percentage score in performance task for Filipino, which is 81. 81 times its weights of component. Language performance task is 50%. So we're going to write 0.50. 0.50 because Filipino belongs to language. And we're solving the component, which is the performance task. So 81 times 0.50, it is 40.5. Now let's proceed to another subject, which is English. Finding the weighted score in performance task in English. Weighted score is equal to the percentage score of performance task in English, that is 77. 77 multiplied to the weight of the component, which is 50%, or 0.50. So 77 times 0.50 is 38.5. Proceeding to the next subject, that is mathematics. Let's find the weighted score in performance task for mathematics. Weighted score is equal to the percentage score of performance task, which is 67. 67 multiplied by the weight of the component, that is 40%. Because the subject is math and the component is performance task. So it is 40, or 0.40. 67 times 0.40, it is 26.8. The next subject is science. Finding the weighted score in performance task for science. Weighted score is equal to the percentage score of performance task for science, that is 79. 79 multiplied to the weight of the component, which is 0.40. Because science is the subject and the component is performance tasks, so that is weighted 40%. So let's write 0.40 again. 79 times 0.40, it is 31.6. So 31.6 is the weighted score in performance task for science. Next to science is Araling Panlipunan. Weighted score is equal to the percentage score of performance task for Araling Panlipunan, that is 80. 83 multiplied to the weight of the component, that is 50% or 0.50. We considered the subject, which is Araling Panlipunan, and the component, that is performance task. So it is 50%. 83 times 0.50 is equal to 41.5. Now let's proceed to another subject. Find the weighted score in performance task for ESP or edukasyon sa pagpakatao. Weighted score is equal to 84, because 84 is the percentage score for the performance task in edukasyon sa pagpapakatao. Let's put 84 here times the weight of the component. Performance task in edukasyon sa pagpapakatao weights 50%, so that is 0.50 in decimal form. So it is 0.50. I know. 0.50. 84 times 0.50, it is 42. So 42 is the weighted score in performance task in ESP. Now let's also find the weighted score in performance task for edukasyon, pantahanan at pangkabuhayan. The percentage score in performance task is 84. Let's put 84 again. Times the performance task weights 60% in EPP, so it will be 0.60. 84 times 0.60 is equal to 50.4. So 50.4 is the weighted score in performance task for edukasyon, pantahanan at pangkabuhayan. So let's write all of these weighted scores in performance task in the table. Considering that the percentage score refers to the performance task, so the Filipino weights 40.5 in performance task. Let's write 40.5. Then the next subject is English, that weights 38.5. Next subject is the mathematics, which is 26.8 in weighted score. Then in science, it weights 31.6. 31.6. In Araling Panlipunan, we have the weighted score of 41.5. 41.5. In edukasyon sa pagpapakatao, we have 42. So let's write 42. And lastly is the EPP, which weights 50.4. 50.4. Another weighted score to be solved is the weighted score in quarterly assessment. Weighted score in quarterly assessment for Filipino. Weighted score is equal to 75, which is the percentage score in quarterly assessment. 75 times the weight of component, that is 20%, because 20% belongs to the language and the component is quarterly assessment, so it's 20% or 0.20. 75 times 0.20 is equal to 15. Let's go to the next subject, that is English. Weighted score in quarterly assessment for English. Weighted score is equal to 75 again. Then multiplied by 0.20 again. Because English is also part of the language. So 0.20 here. Then let's multiply the 75 times 0.20. It is the same in Filipino, which is 15. So next subject is mathematics. Weighted score is equal to 62, because 62 is the percentage score in quarterly assessment for mathematics. 62 times the weight of the component of mathematics in quarterly assessment, that is 20%. Or 0.20. 62 times 0.20, it's 12.4. The next subject is science. So let's compute the weighted score in quarterly assessment for science. Weighted score in quarterly assessment for science. Weighted score is equal to 65. 65 times the weight of the component of science in quarterly assessment, that's 20%. Or 0.20. 65 times 0.20 is equal to 13. So 13 is the weighted score in quarterly assessment for science subject. The next subject is Araling Panlipunan. Weighted score in quarterly assessment for Araling Panlipunan. We have 83 here. Multiplied by the weight of component in Araling Panlipunan. For quarterly assessment, that's 20%. Or 0.20. 83 times 0.20 is equal to 16.6. So 16.6 is the weighted score in quarterly assessment for Araling Panlipunan. Next to solve it is the weighted score in quarterly assessment for Edukasyon sa Pagpakatao or ESP. What's the percentage score in quarterly assessment for ESP? It is 84. 84 times the weight of the component, ESP, and the component is quarterly assessment, that's 0.20 again. 0.20. 84 times 0.20, the answer is 16.8. Next to be solved is the weighted score in quarterly assessment for Edukasyong Pangtahanan at Pangkabuhayan or EPP. Remember the formula, weighted score is equal to the percentage score of the component in the learning area times weight of the component. So it is 77 times 20%, 0.20. The answer is 15.4. So 15.4 is the weighted score in quarterly assessment for EPP. Now let's put all of the weighted scores in quarterly assessment in the table. So Filipino got 15. English got the weighted score of 15 also. Then mathematics got 12.4. 12.4. Science got 13. Araling Panlipunan is 16.6. The weighted score of ESP is 16.8. And lastly is the EPP that got 15.4. As we can observe that the weighted scores are already filled up. So the next to solve is the initial grade. We know already that the formula in getting the initial grade is equal to the sum of the weighted scores in written work, weighted score in performance task, and weighted score in quarterly assessment. So it's going to be like this. We're going to solve first the initial grade in Filipino. Initial grade for Filipino initial grade is equal to 25.5 40.5 plus 40.5 plus 15. So the 25.5, we got this by looking at the weighted score in written work for Filipino. Then the 40.5 is the weighted score in performance task for Filipino. And the 15 is the weighted score for quarterly assessment in Filipino. The sum of the weighted scores is 81. Therefore, 81 is the initial grade of Filipino. Therefore, 81 is the initial grade for Filipino. So let's put 81. Then let's go to the subject English. Initial grade for English. It's just the same procedure, which is to add the weighted scores in written work, performance task, and quarterly assessment. So in written work, we have 24.6 plus 38.5 plus 15. So the answer is 78.1. The initial grade for English is 78.1. So let's write 78.1. Next subject to be computed is mathematics. Initial grade for mathematics. Initial grade is equal to 28.4, the weighted score in written work. 28.4 plus the 26.8 in performance task. 26.8 plus 12.4. That's the weighted score in quarterly assessment. Let's write 12.4. Then, let's find the sum. 28 plus 4 plus 26.8 plus 12.4 is equal to 67.6. 67.6. Therefore, 67.6 is the initial grade for mathematics. Next subject is, let's put 67.6 in, so that we can proceed to the next subject, that is science. Initial grade for science we got 30.4 weighted score in written work. 30.4 plus 31.6. 31.6 plus 13. So let's add it. 30.4 plus 31.6 plus 13 is equal to 75. So, 75 is the initial grade for science. 75. Next subject is Araling Panlipunan. Let's compute the initial grade for Araling Panlipunan. Initial grade is equal to 24.9 plus 41.5 plus 16.6. That's 16.6. So 24.9 plus 41.5 plus 16.6 is equal to 83. So 83 is the initial grade for Araling Panlipunan. Let's write 83 here. Then proceed to the next subject, that is edukasyon sa pagpakatao. Let's find the initial grade for edukasyon sa pagpakatao or ESP. That is IG is equal to 25.2 plus 42 plus 16.8. And the answer is 84. Let's proceed to the next subject, that is edukasyong pantahanan at pagkabuhayan. Let's find the initial of it again. For EPP. Let's add all of its weighted scores. We have 16 in written work. 16. We have 50.4 in performance task. 50.4. We have 15.4 in quarterly assessment. 15.4. So the sum of 16 plus 50.4 plus 15.4 is equal to 81.8. Therefore, 81.8 is the initial grade for EPP. So let's write the initial grade for ESP, that's 84, and the EPP got 81.8. 81.8. After we found the initial grades of Filipino, English, Mathematics, Science, Araling Panlipunan, Edukasyon sa Pagpakatao, and Edukasyong Pantahanan at Pangkabuhayan, we are also ready to transmute these initial grades using the DepEd transmutation table during 2019. So, according to the 2019 DepEd transmutation table, the 81 will become 88. The 78.1 will become 86. Next is the initial grade of mathematics, that is 67.6. It will become 79. Next is the science, which got 75. 75 will become 84. Next is the Araling Pangasinan that got 83. 83 will become 89. Next is the initial grade of education sa pagpakatao, which is 84. 84 will become 90. Next is the edukasyong pantahanan at pangkabuhayan, which got 81.8. It will become 88. So we will put 88 here. Now that we are already done with the Filipino, English, Mathematics, Science, Araling Palipunan, Edukasyon sa Pagpakatao, at Edukasyong Pantahanan at Pangkabuhayan's quarterly grades, we will move on to the MAPE subject. At this juncture, let us move on to the MAPE subject. The first that we're going to solve is the weighted scores in written work for music, arts, physical education, and health. Let us remember the formula of weighted score, which is weighted score is equal to the percentage score of the written work times the weight of the component. So let's refer to the table again in weighing the component. Let us find first the weighted score in written work for music. Finding weighted score in written work for music. Weighted score is equal to the percentage score. Weighted score is equal to the percentage score of written work in music, which is 76. Then let's multiply it to the weight of component in written work for MAPE subject. That is 0.20. So 76 times 0.20 is equal to 15.2. Therefore, the weighted score in written work for music is 15.2. So let's write 15.2 here, because 15.2 is the weighted score for the written work in music subject. The next subject is the arts. Let us find the weighted score in written work for arts. What is the percentage score in written work for arts? It is 85. So let's write 85, multiply it to the weight of its component, which is 0.20. 85 times 0.20 is equal to 17. So 17 is the weighted score in written work for arts. Let's put 17 here. Next is the physical education. So the percentage score of its written work is 80. 80 times the weight of the component, which is 0.20 again. 0.20. 80 times 0.20 is equal to 16. So the weighted score in written work for physical education subject is 16. Last subject is the health. Weighted score is equal to 85 because 85 is the percentage score of its written work. So we will write 85. Then let's multiply it to the weight of the component, which is 0.20 again. 0.20. 85 times 0.20 is equal to 17. Then we will write 17 here. Next is the weighted score in performance task for the following learning area, which is music, arts, physical education, and health. We will use again the formula, but we will refer the weighing of component in performance task. Weighted score in performance task. Weighted score in performance task for music. Weighted score is equal to 77 times the weight of the component, which is 0.60. 77 times 0.60 is equal to 46.2. Next subject is the arts. Weighted score in performance task for arts. We have weighted score is equal to 81 multiplied by the weight of the component, which is 0.60. So the answer is 48.6. Therefore, 48.6 is the weighted score in performance task for arts. So let's write first the weighted score in performance task for music. It is 46.2, while the weighted score in performance task for arts is 48.6. 48.6. Next is the physical education. We will use 80. Then multiply it again to 0.60. The answer is 48. So we will write 48 here. 48. Last subject is the health. Weighted score is equal to 81 times 0.60. 81 times 0.60 is equal to 48.6. So 48.6 is the So 48.6 is the weighted score in performance task for health. Another part to be weighted is the weighted score in quarterly assessment for the following learning areas. These are music, arts, physical education, and health. Weighted score in quarterly assessment for music. So weighted score is equal to 75 multiplied by its weight of component, that is 0.20. 0.20. 75 times 0.20 is equal to 15. Next is the weighted score in quarterly assessment for arts. Weighted score is equal to 80 times 0.20. 80 times 0.20 is equal to 16. So 16 is the weighted score in quarterly assessment for arts. So let's put 16. And remember, the weighted score in quarterly assessment for music is 15. So let's put 15. Next learning area is the physical education. Weighted score is equal to 78 times 0.20. 78 times 0.20, it is 15.6. So let's put 15.6. Last learning area is the health. The percentage score in quarterly assessment for health is 75. Let's solve the weighted score in quarterly assessment for health in this area. We will write weighted score in quarterly assessment for health. What is the percentage score in quarterly assessment for health? It is 75. 75 multiplied by 0.20. The answer is 15. Therefore, 15 is the weighted score in quarterly assessment for health. After solving all of the weighted scores in written work, performance task, and quarterly assessment, let's move on by solving the initial grades of the learning areas entitled Music, Arts, Physical Education, and Health. The formula in finding the initial grade is equal to the sum of the weighted scores of written work, weighted score in performance task, and weighted score in quarterly assessment. So let's start to solve it. The initial grade for music. Initial grade is equal to the weighted scores. So let's use 15.2 plus 46.2 plus 15. So what is the sum of 15.2 plus 46.2 plus 15? It is 76.4. So 76.4 is the initial grade for music. Let's write 76.4. Next learning area is arts. Finding the initial grade for arts. The weighted scores are 17 plus 48.6 plus 16. 17 plus 48.6 plus 16 is equal to 81.6. So let's write 81.6. Next subject is physical education. It's just the same procedure, so let's continue in solving it. Using the 2019 depth and transmutation table again, we will transmute the initial grade into quarterly grade. So 76.4 will become 85. Then the arts got 88. Physical education got 86. And health will have 87. Next step is to find the percentage score in written work for MAPE. So the formula is written work percentage score for MAPE is equal to the percentage score in written work for music, arts, physical education, and health. So let's write 76 plus 85 plus 80 plus 85. Then divide by the number of learning areas, which is 4. Now let's derive it. 76 plus 85 plus 80 plus 85 is equal to 326. 326, bring down the 4. 326 divided by 4 is equal to 81.5. So let's put 81.5 here. 81.5. And find the answer of the missing parts here. We're going to find the mean of weighted score in written work for MAPE, percentage score in performance task for MAPE, weighted score in performance task for MAPE, the quarterly assessment for MAPE, then the weight of quarterly assessment for MAPE, then the initial grade and quarterly grade. It's just the same procedure, which we will add 15.2 plus 76 plus 16 plus 17, then divide it by 4. Now, let us answer the 5 different questions regarding on our computations in task 3. The first question is, what is Paulo's composite grade in MAPE? How did you find it? As we see in the table, Paulo's composite grade in MAPE is 79.55. I found it by finding his weighted scores in different components for music, arts, physical education, and health. Next to find is the mean of his percentage scores in different components. Then after that, I computed the initial grade as early as we found the composite weighted scores. Number 2 question is, in which learning area did Paulo perform best during his first quarter? Explain briefly your basis. During the first quarter, Paulo performs best in Edukasyong Pantahanan at Pangkabuhayan. As we can see on his percentage score in performance tasks, he got 84 for Edukasyong Pantahanan at Pangkabuhayan, which is the same as the percentage score in performance task for Edukasyon sa Pagpakatao. On the other hand, he got the highest weighted score in performance task for Edukasyong Pantahanan at Pangkabuhayan, because as the matter of fact, the performance task for TLE and MAPE weights 60% to their grade. So, Paulo indeed performs well in this learning area. Third question is, in which learning area does Paulo need to improve on? Why so? Paulo needs to improve in mathematics, since he got the lowest grade in this learning area during the first quarter. Moreover, his percentage scores and weighted scores in written work, performance task, and quarterly assessment for mathematics are also the lowest among any other learning area during the first quarter. The fourth question is, what does his level of proficiency in Araling Panlipunan signify? Paulo's level of proficiency in Araling Panlipunan signifies that he is almost consistent and proficient in his written works, performance tasks, as well as to his quarterly assessment. The last question is, describe Paulo's overall performance in the first quarter. How would you communicate this to his parents? The overall performance of Paulo in the first quarter is proficient. To approach his parents, I will invite them to attend the quarterly PTA meeting, and I'll let them see the report card of Paulo for the first quarter and tell them what's the best of Paulo that I observed. I will also include the things that Paulo has to be improved, just like Paulo performs best in theory and ESP, and also competent in written works and exams. However, he needs some encouragement to pay attention during mathematics class because it is evident that he doesn't like the subject. He is capable to do the things generally, and we will still hope that his grades will improve on the next quarter with the help of your guidance. That's all for now. Thank you for watching.